Like and subscribe right now, or you're going to have terrible luck for the next week. Collisions of ships is a scary and unfortunate event which no one wants to encounter at sea. However, accidents do take place as a result of human error or other unforeseen circumstances. Several ship accidents have taken place at sea or port, of which some have been captured on camera by passengers, crew members from other ships, or by people working on ports. Here are 15 biggest ship collisions and mistakes caught on camera. Number 15. MSC Opera. In June 2019, 5 people were injured in Venice when a cruise ship slammed into a tourist boat and he thought you were having a bad day. The crash happened on a major thoroughfare on the Geodeca canal, which leads to St. Mark's Square in the northeastern Italian city. The cruise ship was out of control when it rammed into a dock and the riverboat full of tourists. As it was unable to stop, it blared its horn as it hit the river Countess, with dozens of people running away in panic. Videos of the collision showed people rushing to disembark from the riverboat via a short gangplank. 2 people were left stranded on the walkway as the boat became dislodged from the pier. A witness to the event, Elizabeth Pascalino, who was watering plants on her terrace at the time, watched as the cruise boat moved slowly towards the dock. She said the ship's bow crashed hard into the bank, and when it hit the smaller boat it made it look like it was made of paper or plastic rather than steel. According to the cruise ship's owner, it suffered a mechanical failure and 2 tugboats were unable to stop it from ramming into the riverboat. Before moving to the next number, we just want small favor from you. Like and subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to get 1 week good luck for you. Try this, it really worked. Number 14. Vitaspirit. Out of all structures to accidentally crash into with a malfunctioning bulk carrier. The last thing you want it to be is an 18th century waterfront mansion. That was the unfortunate reality for those in charge of the Vitaspirit, a 738-foot-long bulk carrier traveling down the Bosphorus Strait. The Malta-flagged vessel was on its way to Ukraine from Egypt when it crashed into the waterside mansion in the area of Anadolu Hussars on the afternoon of April 7, 2018. Many of the mansions along the banks of this area date back to the Ottoman Empire. News sources reported that the vessel had a malfunction, which caused its rudder to become disabled and lose control in the busy waterway that sees tens of thousands of ships passing through without issue each year. The mansion it crashed into was built during the 18th century and has long been used for concerts, weddings, and other social gatherings. Fortunately, no one was hurt in the accident, and there didn't appear to be any environmental threats either. The mansion's owners were understandably upset and demanded prosecution against those in charge of maritime traffic. Number 13. Ulysses and CSL Virginia. In 2018, a Tunisian-flagged ship called Ulysses collided with a huge container ship, CSL Virginia, which was sailing at 19 knots off the coast of Corsica. It was on a regular voyage from Genoa to Tunis. After the collision, it took 5 days to separate the 2 ships before a massive cleanup operation had to get underway to deal with the spilled fuel oil. So how did such a terrible collision occur? According to an investigation into the accident, it was the watchkeeper's error. Officers had been on their mobile phones when the collision occurred in the Mediterranean. The French investigation body Beamer said the ferry's watchkeeper was also experiencing fatigue and family and personal worries which may have played a part in the accident. The officer was alone on the bridge at the time and was sitting in a chair that had very little visibility ahead. 7 minutes before the collision, he left his chair to visit the chart table behind closed curtains to fill in the logbook and plot a point on the chart. The investigation also revealed that the X-band radar was out of use and only one of the 2 binoculars on the ferry bridge was working correctly. Number 12. Bulk carrier and tanker collision. In April 2021, the product tanker and dry bulk carrier collided in Manila Bay. The Philippine Coast Guard responded to the incident and fortunately, both vessels remained seaworthy. However, they sustained pretty significant damage. According to reports, the 2 vessels collided about 3 nautical miles from Manila Bay's Cavite City at about 9:50 p.m. at night. At the time, the sea and weather were calm. Early reports indicated that the Panama-flagged product tanker called Rich Rainbow was leaving the Philippines with gasoline bound for China when it hit IV Alliance, the Marshall Island-flagged bulk carrier. IV Alliance was inbound from Indonesia with a load of coal. Fortunately, there were no reports of injury from either vessel, and there didn't appear to be any leaks. Inspections of the tanker and the bulk carrier did reveal some terrible damage though. Rich Rainbow had a massive 50 to 60 foot gash along its starboard side, above the waterline, and below the structure deck. Both vessels were issued notices of detention, which gave the Coast Guard and technical experts a chance to perform a marine casualty investigation. Number 11. The Hansa Constitution. Engine failure and monsoon winds were thought to have contributed to a very dramatic collision in which a 633-foot container ship collided with a sea wall in the residential area of Pak Fu Land near the Stanley House Sports Center. No one was hurt in the incident, in part due to the captain's quick thinking to drop anchor and slow the ship down. The German-registered shipping vessel called the Hansa Constitution was on its way from the East Lama Channel to Shenzhen, China, when engine failure and monsoon winds threw it off course. If you think that sounds dramatic, wait until you see the footage. You'd nearly have a heart attack if you were on the sports field and saw a huge container ship headed straight for. It was loaded with shipping containers and was traveling at a fast speed towards the field. Fortunately, it could stop just before it hit the field, but you could see the water lapping up against the boundary. You have got to give the captain credit. He sure had control over what seemed to be an impossible situation. Number 10. MV Rena. New Zealand's Environment Minister Nick Smith labelled the MV Arena as the country's worst maritime environmental disaster. The Liberian-flanked container ship ran aground on an astrolabe reef near Tauranga in New Zealand in October 2011, causing 350 tons of fuel oil to leak from its ruptured hull into the Bay of Plenty. After a grain of ground, MV Reno was listing at an 11-degree angle on its port side before becoming more stable, but then toppling onto its starboard side. 5-meter swells were pounding the ship, leading to fears that it would break up and drop its 1368 shipping containers into the sea. The oil washing ashore was considered highly toxic and dozens of birds were dying. Oil was also expected to be spilling onto the shores for months to come. What was interesting was that the weather was calm at the time of the accident. As a result, within days of it happening, the captain of the Arena and his second officer was arrested. They were charged with operating a vessel in a manner causing unnecessary danger or risk. Dismantling operations didn't get underway until September 2012. Number 9. Spanish cargo ship. Rough seas and high winds led to a Spanish cargo ship, the Luna, breaking into two pieces off France's southwestern coast near Bayonne in 2014. According to reports, the vessel had been trying to reach the port when the weather and sea conditions caused it to slam against a wall. At the time, the North Atlantic coast had been experiencing winds as high as 150 kilometers an hour in some areas. The cargo ship's captain had alerted authorities to its loss of electrical power in the storm. The captain had also tried to drop anchor, but the vessel subsequently broke in two. At the time, it was carrying 127 metric tons of fuel and 12 tons of oil. However, it wasn't carrying any cargo at the time. French gendarmerie, helicopters and the military were dispatched to help rescue the 11 crew members on board. One was injured, and there was also a Bayonne port official on board who had been assisting with guiding the ship in. According to France Transport Minister Frédéric Cavillard, there was no drama and the incident was a minor accident. However, there were reports of fuel leakage from the boat early on. Number 8. MV Wakashio. On July 25, 2020, the MV Wakashio Japanese bulk carrier ran aground on a coral reef off the coast of Mauritius. It leaked nearly 1,000 tons of oil over 27 kilometers near world-renowned coral reefs. To say it's an ecological disaster is an understatement. The area where the bulk carrier ran aground is popular with tourists and is a sanctuary for rare wildlife. It also has wetlands that are considered a site of international importance. Upwards of 3,000 tons of oil had been pumped from the ship's fuel reservoirs to stop further leaks. and booms had been reinforced to absorb any oil still leaking out. A state of emergency was declared and Mauritius said it would seek compensation from the shipowner and the insurance company. According to Greenpeace Africa, thousands of animals were at risk of drowning in a sea of pollution. This would have dire consequences for the food security, health, and economy of Mauritius. Residents were also breathing heavy oil vapor and were both sad and angry about the spill. Mauritius police were granted a search warrant to board the vessel and take items of interest to help with the investigation, such as the ship's log book. Number 7. Cargo ship Sea Grande. We all know not to drink and drive, but what about drinking captain? In 2019, an intoxicated captain at the helm of a 370-foot Russian cargo ship called Sea Grande crashed it into a major highway bridge near South Korea's port of Busan. The accident happened during rush hour traffic, causing vessel damage and tearing a huge hole in the steel structure of the bridge. Some news sources stated that the ship was traveling from Busan to its home port in Vladivostok in Russia with 3 million pounds of steel coils. The captain was supposed to steer the ship north along the coast before navigating along the Sea of Japan's eastern edge. Instead, he steered it a couple of miles before turning it into a bay heading for the double-deck Gwangan Bridge. This bridge has the second longest span in the country. Korean Coast Guard officials who tracking regular sea traffic saw the ship's deviation and radioed the captain to turn around. The captain may not have understood English or didn't speak it to follow instructions. After the collision, the captain fled the scene before the KCG detained the vessel. Number 6. Stellar Banner. The Stellar Banner was a large carrier registered in the Marshall Islands. It was owned and operated by Polaris Shipping in South Korea and was chartered to transport iron ore from Brazil to China for the Brazilian mining giant Vale. On February 24, 2020, after leaving a Vale loading terminal in Brazil, it ran aground about 62 miles from the coast of São Luís and suffered extreme bow damage. Fortunately, no one was hurt and all 20 crew members were safely evacuated. At the time it was on its way to Qingdao, China, with 306.000 tons of iron ore on board. After it ran aground, salvors could remove around 145,000 tons of iron ore before refloating the ship to assess its structure. Unfortunately, it was deemed a total loss. The hard decision was made to scuttle her after towing Stellar Banner to shore presented substantial safety concerns. 3 months later, June 12, the scuttling process began when she was towed to deep waters for inspection. Scuttling typically involves cutting a hole in the side deck or bottom of a ship to sink it intentionally. Number 5. Yogi. Yogi, the foot €450 million yacht from Turkish shipbuilder Protek Sand Turquoise, was the largest yacht ever built. It was a thing of beauty with a swimming pool, wellness center, media room, beach club, and more. It also featured a luxurious interior with lounging pads, a covered dining room, a sun deck, and a jacuzzi, but all these classy additions and features don't stop a yacht from sinking. No matter how much money you sunk into it. The yacht was built to operate as a charter yacht for French TV and media millionaire Stephen Corby. However, on February 17, 2012, just days from leaving a yard where it was receiving warranty maintenance work, it sank in the Aegean Sea. At the time the weather was presenting some challenges, but it was engine failure and circumstantial events that ultimately led to its sinking to the bottom of the Mediterranean. The shipbuilding company was cleared and blame was placed on extreme conditions and human oversight. Turkish investigations revealed the same factors. When Yogi got into trouble, it took an hour for a skeleton crew of 8 to be evacuated by helicopter in waves up to 23 feet. Number 4. Cruise ship Excellent. Excellent was definitely not a great name for this cruise ship, especially when it collided with a container terminal pier in Barcelona. That event was anything but excellent. The accident happened in October 2018. The Ropez ferry was ferrying into the Barcelona port to dock in challenging weather. As the ferry approached the dock, it drifted back-turned, then headed for the port's entrance. While we can't know for sure what the captain was thinking, they decided to abort the berthing and wait for tugs as it was proving challenging to keep Excellent under control. However, that's when things turned sour. The ferry hit the pier and knocked down a gantry crane. This caused 6 containers on the dock to fall over. The collision of the metal caused sparks to fly, which caused flammable cargo inside the containers to ignite. Fortunately, the city fire engines could extinguish the fire and the ferry could be brought under control. She suffered starboard bow hull damage. Both weather conditions and handling contributed to this unfortunate collision. Before we move on, I've got a little challenge for you that'll take me 5 seconds to complete. So here's the deal: you just leave a like on this video, smash that subscribes button and hit the notification bell, and you'll get 15 years of amazing luck. Try it, it really works. Number 3. MOL Comfort. In a situation that's a little bit Titanic like the MV Mall Comfort, a container ship snapped clean in half off the coast of Yemen. The Indian Coast Guard was called in to help rescue the 26 crew members on board. However, as the hull broke in two, the crew had to abandon the ship and be safe from the rough waters near the ship. They could make their way safely into a lifeboat and 2 life rafts. 3 nearby vessels helped in the rescue, and the crew members were transported to Colombo in Sri Lanka. In the same position, it was damaged, and Mall Comfort started to sink. This caused its 4,500 containers on board to be scattered throughout the Arabian Sea, including an unspecified amount of oil. At the time of the report in 2013, during inclement weather, it's not known what led to the disaster. However, tugboats were organized to visit the scene of the accident to transport the 2 vessel halves. A patrol boat would also be attending the accident site. At the time all of this was unfolding, rescue crews were trying to operate in seas up to almost 20 feet and strong winds. Number 2. Alanis and Florence Spirit. In July 2020, Great Lake freighters Florence Spirit and Alanis collided on the starboard side near each other's anchor. The Florence Spirit was heading towards Lake Ontario down the Welland Canal, and Alanis was on her way to Lake Erie. Fortunately, no injuries were reported, and an investigation was immediately underway with the Transportation Safety Board of Canada. According to reports, both freighters' captains had been in touch with each other before the collision. When they hit, Alanis was forced towards the east side of the canal, while Florence Spirit was pushed towards the west bank. Both freighters could stop before they hit the banks. As investigations got underway, the black boxes on the ships were removed. Pilots and crew members were interviewed and inspectors were brought in from Quebec City. The investigation could take up to 1 year, with the findings to be published by the Transportation Board of Canada. The aim of the investigation was to find out whether human error or equipment was to blame. They weren't trying to blame, but instead, find out exactly what happened. Number 1. MSC Armonia. Passengers on the cruise ship MSC Armonia got quite the shock when they arrived in Honduras with a literal bang in April 2018. The large cruise ship had veered slightly off course and ended up smashing into a pier, while attempting to arrive at the port of Isla Roten in Honduras. When it attempted to dock, it struck part of the port, causing it to crumble. Fortunately, no one was hurt on impact. Onlookers managed to capture footage of the cruise ship coming into the port at a strange angle, and it definitely looked like it was gonna crash, and it did precisely that. Guests were able to disembark normally and carry on with their scheduled shore excursions. According to an MSC Cruise Line spokesperson, there was no risk of 2 passengers or crew. There was also no environmental impact. After assessments, damage to the ship was deemed minor. Some small repairs were made before the Honduran port state control. Authorities gave the ship the all-clear to leave the port at 2 a.m. the following morning for its next scheduled stop in Belize. No one ever wants to make a mistake when in charge of a big ship, but it happens. Some people just make more terrible mistakes than others. What's the worst collision or error you've seen involving the transportation of any kind? Tell us in the comments. Also, check out our other cool stuff showing up on the screen, and at the end, like this video and subscribe channel for more amazing videos.